Chucky gets lucky, y'all. Welcome into another JD Reviews. I wanted to do something horror related this week. So today I'm looking at two films in particular that I've always kind of wanted to cover in terms of reviews, and they both happen to be directed by the same individual as well, which is really, really cool. And I've always kind of known that. I always knew that this particular director had directed both movies, but I'd never really put the two together consciously, I suppose. Without any further ado, let's review both these movies in the first double feature I've done for a little while on this channel.
Come to Freddy.
Come on. That's my boy.
Ronny Yu, born in 1950 in Hong Kong. Yu had a passion for filmmaking from a very early age. He sadly contracted polio at the mere age of 9 months old, forcing him to spend much of his childhood in isolation. To ease the loneliness, cinema offered grand escapism from everyday life, and it was then that his prosperous future career began to come into focus. After studying business at college in order to support his family financially, he was convinced by a friend to direct his first feature movie at the age of 29, and it was then that his dream would come into fruition. His filmography includes 21 credits according to IMDb, consisting of, but not limited to, action fantasy The Bride with White Hair, made in 1993, romantic drama The Phantom Lover, made in 1995, crime comedy The 51st State, starring Samuel L. Jackson and Robert Carlyle, made in 2001, martial arts epic Fearless, starring Jet Li, made in 2006, and of course the two slasher gems that we are exploring in this episode today. It may just be a happy coincidence that Yu was hired to direct both movies featuring horror slasher icons, one of which being a clear crossover and the other featuring heavy references to potential future crossover. But I do like to think there was a cheeky plan to have Yu direct a massive crossover between these three giants in the horror genre. There have been rumours that the Hellraiser and Evil Dead series were originally to have references in Freddy vs. Jason, and in the case of Pinhead, even a cameo featured in the film's finale. However, this is not the case. We can only dream. Bride of Chucky, released in 1998. Written by none other than the legendary creator of Chucky, Don Mancini. The film is a continuation in the Child's Play series, which was highly prominent upon its creation in the 1980s, telling the story of serial killer Charles Lee Ray, played by Brad Dourif, who upon his death possesses the body of a good guy doll named Chucky. Through the guise of this sweet little angel, he's able to continue his atrocious killing spree, all the while attempting to find a new human cadaver to possess. In this chapter, we're introduced to Tiffany, played by Jennifer Tilly, Charles's loving girlfriend back when he was alive, with a very similar morbid curiosity and passion for murder. When presented with the opportunity to kill Tiffany and transfer her soul into a doll, Chucky has no hesitation. Bride was the first in the series to be taken in a different direction to its predecessors, favouring self-parody and dark comedy over straight-up scares. However, I love this approach wholeheartedly, and it certainly is not without its share of creep. There's a beautiful, transparent love for horror history thrown into the mix here, with references to Chucky's formidable rivals in the slasher scene, Freddy Krueger of A Nightmare on Elm Street fame, Jason Voorhees of Friday the 13th fame, Pinhead of Hellraiser legend, and even to 1935's Bride of Frankenstein, presenting an extremely well-nuanced juxtaposition between itself and the source material. This chapter is without a doubt my favourite in the Child's Play series for many reasons. On a technical level, the cinematography by Peter Powell, who has also worked on films such as The Killer and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, is gorgeously gothic, offering the most beautiful palette a Chucky movie has been presented in my opinion. Working alongside the genuinely sinister score by Graham Revell, whose credits also include The Crow and Freddy vs. Jason, the sense of portent is very real and accompanies Chucky's evil doings very well. The production design by Alicia K1, working in conjunction with quite brilliant and oftentimes clever set design, led by Mike Harris and Carol Lavoie, is another aspect of why the film's style stayed with me long after my first watch when I was young, and along with the works of Tim Burton, had a lot to do with forming my appreciation for Gothic sensibilities, I believe. The blood and gore is plentiful also, sure to please gorehounds alike, and the mechanical doll work is masterful in this. More than anything, it also has a huge, passionate heart and a surprising amount of really moving moments, all brought by Tilly's engaging performance. Yes, Tiffany's sex appeal was a massive part of my sexual awakening. But there is of course more to the performance, and I think Tilly's continued adoration for the character in the series, as shown in interviews, is infectiously wonderful. You really feel for her when she pines for the sweet romance not present in her reality, and the sense of tragic love really permeates the overall story.
Don't have time for this shit.
Oh shit, sorry. With great supporting performances including a young Katherine Heigl, Nick Stable, and of course Durif returning as Chucky, there's always entertainment up on screen from the opening titles right to the darkly hilarious final frame. Freddy vs. Jason, released in 2003. Produced by the creator of the original Friday the 13th movie, Sean S. Cunningham, and featuring Robert Englund's final screen performance of Mr. Krueger to date, this much-awaited slasher crossover was finally brought to the screen under the keen direction of Ronny Yu, just 5 years after Bride of Chucky graced our screens. For anyone who's not too familiar with the backstories of the titular characters, it's quite important to know the basics before going into review of this particular movie. Freddy Krueger was introduced to us in Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street, released in 1984. Also known as the Springwood Slasher, Krueger was a serial killer of children who, upon his release from prison, was hunted down and killed by fire by the parents of the town he terrorized. But Freddy returned for bloody vengeance beyond the grave and stalks his victims through their nightmares with the intention to kill, causing their demise in reality also. In the opening sequence of Freddy vs. Jason, we see his origin story told through fantastically sinister narration by Englund, culminating in his recruitment of Jason Voorhees to commit his atrocities for him while he is building up his strength to enter the material world again. Jason Voorhees first appeared in Friday the 13th, released in 1980, as portrayed by Ari Lehman, and although not the first slasher movie in existence, is often revered as the archetypal slasher. His origin story is one steeped in tragedy. As a young boy, Jason attended a summer camp named Crystal Lake, where he was horribly bullied by his peers purely for his deformities. When chased into the lake itself, he drowned and passed away. Years later, upon the reopening of the camp, he returns from the dead with hockey mask and machete in tow to kill the current camp counselors and attendees in an effort to repent his bleak past. Now, for the rest of this video, I am going to be talking about spoilers for the original Friday the 13th movie in particular. So if you haven't seen that movie and want to be surprised by that film, I'd definitely go and watch that before seeing the rest of this review. If you don't want spoilers at all, otherwise, stay tuned, my friends. For anyone who has seen the original, we discover that the real killer behind Jason's actions is in fact his mother Pamela, who seeks revenge against those who wronged her son and resurrects him to exact bloody vengeance and satisfaction. In Freddy vs. Jason, Freddy tricks Jason into resurrection and fighting for him by posing as his mother in his consciousness, essentially egging him on to travel to Elm Street and kill those who have slipped Freddy's grip for so long. Jason is portrayed here by Ken Kersinger. Jason has always been a sympathetic character. Although of course he is the killer of the Friday the 13th series, fans do feel empathy for him and root for him due to the constant strain and pressure from his mother to do these horrible things and the tragic circumstances of his childhood. Here, writers Damien Shannon and Mark Swift, along with Ronny Yu, absolutely keep those elements of the character and the essence of his being fully intact, while pinpointing Freddy as the evil maniac he has been throughout cinema history. Freddy is very much the bully here, pulling the strings for his own selfish, murderous gain, with Jason essentially being the unknowing pawn in his game. when their confrontation inevitably happens, it is due to Freddy's ego getting the better of him and wanting Jason out of the picture for good. Freddy's manipulation of Jason's waking mind, dredging up his childhood trauma to use as a weapon against him, makes for the most distressing moment of the movie, involving the visualization of a young defenseless Jason being impaled by one of Freddy's trademark razors, which stayed with me for a while after watching. But Jason will not be going anywhere without a fight, leading to their hilariously epic battle finale, delivering 100% on the fun promise of the film's title.
Not strong enough yet. Well, I will be soon enough. Until then, I'll let Jason have some fun.
As for the rest of the movie, there are extremely decent performances all round, with everyone clearly having a blast being part of this project. The metal-focused soundtrack is also a highlight, keeping the nostalgic noughties vibes very much at the forefront, watching back on it now. The action-orientated final half an hour still leaves many viewers polarised, some seeing it as taking the slapstick comedy vibes way too far in favour over the gruesome horror roots of the characters. Personally, I love the comic aspects of this movie, including the pure visual treat earlier in the movie of seeing Freddy appear to a severely stoned individual as none other than a shisha-smoking caterpillar. I feel it made the whole thing linger far longer in the memory, while also paying homage to the bombastic spectacle of Freddy's most outrageous dreamscape stunts. In conclusion, and in terms of ratings for the movies, I would absolutely rate Bride of Chucky a full-on 5 out of 5. I absolutely adore that film. I think mainly for nostalgic reasons is probably why it gets such a high rating. But it is just relentlessly entertaining and a great example of dark comedy done right. Freddy vs. Jason absolutely gets a solid 4 out of 5 in my book. I think both these movies are a near perfect double feature due to their similarities in their respective franchises taking a different, darkly comic and arguably gorier turn than their previous chapters. With the exception of the Elm Street series, those motherfuckers are all gory as sin. Director Ronny Yu projects his love for horror comedy extremely well, keeping the cheese very much alive, while also showing deep respect and passion for the characters' backstories and future installments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned. Please do subscribe and like if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this via podcast, please do give a follow. And I'll be back very soon with another installment. Peace and love, my friends.
You look like Martha Stewart with that thing.
Who the fuck is Martha Stewart?